thanks for doing this. First of all, I really appreciate taking the time out. When I finished up with interviewing Gabby a couple of weeks ago, I said like, "Oh, I'm actually interviewing Kristof in a couple of weeks," and I was like, "So I can get his side of the story." So it's exciting to talk to you. You're kind of someone that I've seen you around, and I've seen you. I kind of follow the program closely enough, as in I keep an eye on it because I've had John on and I kind of enjoyed his company, so I keep an eye on who's there and stuff, I suppose. And just like, we'll get onto it later on, but there's a pretty incredible community being built out there. But most recently, when I was interviewing Gabby, actually, I asked her because you were at home when I was talking to her, and you put up a story in a coffee shop, or it was like a roastery or something in Hungary, like 2 or 3 days in a row. So when I was interviewing Josie, he was saying that he meets you and Gabby for coffee kind of regularly enough when he's on the island. So is coffee like a big thing for you then?
No.
No.
I drink coffee when I like in the morning, and then like maybe before training or something. I have people around me, including my girlfriend and a couple others, who are really anal about their coffee. You can say that, right? And then there's like, oh, this flat white is like, it's not the right temperature, or like it's too much milk. I don't like this barista. I don't like that barista. When we go to the States and we get that like big cup of brown water or something, I really don't care. It's just like, I actually feel like this is gonna be something I ask you to cut out, but like, I mean, like getting a flat white at like a hipster place and then paying like €4 for a cup of coffee, that hurts my feelings. Like, I'm just like, I go there for the company, and then hopefully we have some good food as well. But honestly, I don't really. I can enjoy, I guess, a good cup of coffee, but at the end of the day, I'm not crazy about it.
What would be, if you're going for food, if you're having, say if you're going to a cafe and you're having food, or like maybe a treat or whatever, what would be your go-to? What would be like, are you like donuts, or what are you into?
Yeah, so I think I'm more like a salty person in that regard. So I'm not really crazy
Personality
for.
wise, or just taste of
No,
food?
no, no, no. Taste of food. Yeah. So there's a
So
lot of.
you rather like savory?
Yeah. So there's like a lot of like these hipster coffees on the island, and it's becoming huge, and tourists are coming and everyone enjoys it. And then I just know the places where I like to go. First of all, I think it's important that the service is they get to know you after a while, just
Yeah.
like a friendly face, because there's so many tourists are coming in. I still like it when they appreciate the local
Yeah.
customers. And the other one is like, how big are the portions? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter which coffee place you go to on this island. It's gonna look different, but it's gonna be a piece of toast bread with like an avocado on it, and then if it's just one slice of bread, you won't see me back there again. At
Yeah.
least two slices.
How much would you pay for? How much would you be willing to part with for 2 slices of? I assume sourdough, because it's always sourdough
So
and avocado.
it's always the same. Yeah, it's actually, they have these. It's called like a longuette here. I don't know if it's a Spanish thing or something that they have somewhere else. It's more like a piece of baguette.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And then I usually, maybe there's avocado in it or something. They have like how do you call this, like grilled onions and caramelized onions. And I
Okay.
always ask for an extra poached egg. If they charge you like $2.50 extra for a poached egg, you're like, come
Yeah.
on, like that is daylight robbery. So as long as I can go and I can get like a glass of water, like sparkling water, a coffee, flat white, whatever, and then like two pieces of toast bread with a little bit of avocado on it, or like a longuette for like just under €10, or like
Yeah, okay.
around
That's
ten
fair.
euros, that I can live with that. That's fine. That's
Yeah, that's
fine.
fair.
But
That's fair.
most of the time, it's the chairs, man. They're so tiny and so uncomfortable. It's just not inviting to sit there. So that's also another factor. And it sounds
Just
like I have like,
no,
these are like
I
millennial problems or
no,
something.
I
The
absolutely
coffee is
agree,
too
because
expensive.
it's like there's some coffee shops where you like, so there's a coffee shop I go to, and it basically doesn't have a table. Like you kind of walk in, and there's like a, like a, what do you call it? Like a glass case with like, brownies and all that kind of stuff in it. But you basically, there's a chair, and it's like,
Yeah.
you're kind of like, well, I'm not going to sit in that because what if someone, like, it'll just look weird. So what if someone else comes and sits in it or wants to or whatever? So it's just, I always just get it to go, or I might stand talking to the guys and then go. But there's other places around. There's one place, and they have like school chairs, like old fashioned, the desk that like opens up, and there's like, and it's like, that was fucking designed to be uncomfortable. Like that was designed to keep you sitting upright and like,
Like,
basically like needles in your arse so that you pay attention to what was going on. Why would you pick that as your chair of choice? And it's like, I get it. It's like, oh, it's like hipster and retro, whatever, but it's just a shit chair. Like there are other more comfortable shit. Like, have you ever seen the chairs in like Mad Men? Where they have those like kind of recliner brown. That's a hipster chair, and it's comfortable. Like you don't have to be like, to be a hipster is you're not a masochist. You don't have to self punish yourself with a shit chair. But yeah, I agree with most of what you said. Like, I vehemently disagree with all of the coffee things you said, but I agree with everything else you said. Where it's always sourdough, or like, yeah, and it's always avocado, and it's always, the egg is always poached as well. But yeah, I think any good, obviously part of being a barista is making good coffee, but I think getting to know the people coming in is like, it's nice walking in somewhere and the person just starts making what they know you want, instead of like, the annoying small talk and, and what do you want or whatever. But yeah, no, I pay €7-8 if it was a good coffee. If I knew it was going to be really good. I've gone into places before though, and I'd never not pay, just because it's like, I've asked for it, they've made it, whatever. But I've gone into places and like just left it behind because I'd be like,
Oh, really?
this is shit. Like this is really shit coffee, and I won't say
Okay.
anything, but I'd be like, it's a passive aggressive way of me saying, you need to learn how to make coffee, is just to leave it behind, because in my head they'll come over to it and be like, oh, he forgot his coffee, which is like, then they'll realize like, no wait, he can't have forgotten his coffee because that's the only thing he come in
Okay.
for, so that'd be weird. So then they'd be like, oh fuck, he left this behind as a statement, I'm going to train myself to be better at my job. Whereas in reality what they probably do is, that fucking idiot forgot his coffee, and throw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my head it's a better story.
It's more the experience, I think. Like,
hmm.
you go to a place that you enjoy with friends, or with your spouse, and then you have a good time. But yeah.
That place, is it 42 or something in Hungary that you're in?
Yeah.
Is that, do you know the people that run that, or?
Yeah, so actually the owner, one of the co-owners, he goes over to Glasshouse for Lauro trains. We have a good relationship
Okay.
with Glasshouse, and he's a regular member there. And then the coffee roaster is like, like sort of like neighbors, very
Okay.
close. And they're actually, how do you call it, like an academy there for
Oh,
baristas.
they do
So this is their main thing.
coaching or, yeah,
Yeah. So
that's
they
cool.
do roast their own coffees, but they also train baristas. And
That's cool. How long have you lived in Majorca?
yeah, so officially it's been over 2 years, and then since we have like a permanent place, an apartment, and then before that we were sort of on and off for like half a year.
And because, just picking up on something you said earlier on, you said it's important, even when there's a lot of tourists, that they acknowledge the locals. Do you consider yourself a local then? Is this like, do you live there full time? Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, you think it's quite funny, from many aspects. Obviously, with COVID, it was like a huge hit for the island, and then a place that lives off of most of tourism is not great for the locals and for the local businesses. But for us, post lockdown was sort of like heaven, because we can get into it, but we don't need to. I'm not really a fan of going to the beaches. But anyways, if you want to go to a beach, you could go there without anybody being there. You could walk down the street. Uh, it's just like 3 to 4, it's rather 4 months a year. It's a madhouse here. They
Yeah.
have, I don't want to butcher the numbers, but I believe that around 500,000 people live on this island, and in just a summer turnaround is 3 million people that are visiting this island. So you can just imagine it's not that big of a place. And then most people around the center Palma, and it's just madness, yeah.
Why do you not like going to the beach?
I'm gonna get so much shit for this.
I don't particularly like it either, though. It's just
No,
like if there's a choice between going to a swimming pool or going to a beach, I'll pick the swimming pool because it's like I'm not going to get dirty, I'm not going to get sand everywhere, I'm not going to like need to clean everything I own and myself like excessively when I go home, or there's not going to be sand in my fucking car. Like that's like worst material to take sand off: a fuzzy carpet in a car or a seat.
yeah. No, let's just stick to like I think number one is the heat. And it sounds funny when someone says that who lives in Majorca, where it can get really, really, really hot. But most part of the year is just warm enough that the training environment is perfect. But there are 3 months of the year, 2.5 months of the year, when it's like unbearable hot outside. And it's just, as an athlete, if you go to the beach, I think spending a rest day or even an afternoon under the sun, it can feel more draining than like a full training session.
I remember I was at the games in 2019 as a spectator, just in case you thought I was qualified. But there was it was Whoop had just came on the scene, and I didn't know what it was, but there was a guy in front of me wearing one, and he was in his app, and it was like it was fucking intensely hot, like in Madison, like it was really, really hot, and we were sitting on like steel bleachers, so that was hot, and there was just no escaping it, like. And he said, like, it was at about maybe 2 o'clock, and he goes, my strain is 16. And I didn't know what that meant, but now I do. Like, I know
And he
how
was just
hard it is.
spectating all day, probably.
He was like, it's just the heat. It's just sitting out here. Like, he was like, I haven't done anything. I didn't, like, my recovery was like way up in the green. Like, I didn't do anything strenuous today. I didn't work out, didn't do anything. It's just sitting here in the heat. So yeah, I think, yeah, as an athlete, going to the beach is probably an awful thing to do for your recovery day, because it's just gonna like you're trying to cool yourself, like your body's under pressure the whole time you're there, trying to cool yourself down and trying to, you can't, it might feel like you're relaxing, I suppose, but you can't relax. And like all those, like 8 sleep and all those kind of optimal sleep things that are out there, or all the advice that's out there is like stay cool, like, a cool environment, whatever. So if you're going for a nap, a beach is probably one of the worst places you can go, bar like the sun.
100%. Yeah, 100%.
The, I guess, main reason you're in, or the reason that you're in Majorca and moved to Majorca, was John, I suppose, in the program. How did you get into CrossFit first?
How did I get into CrossFit?
Yeah.
Long story short, I was a chubby kid at high school, unpopular with the girls, wanted to get in shape, went to the gym for a little bit, just like bodybuilding stuff. And then at the time, 2013, the regionals was on Eurosport. And then I was like, oh, this looks cool. And then just hit up CrossFit.com and then try a couple of workouts. A similar story to others, I guess. You just do a workout, you get your ass handed to you, and then, okay, this was horrible but fun at the same time. And then we started to work out at home. Our parents own a climbing call. It's in a big facility with a lot of options to do all kind of sports. And we started doing there, fill the backyard with like big tires. I did a pull-up bar to the garage ceiling, and then just started to work out there. And then slowly we found the closest gym that is to us. With my sister, we lived at home at the time, both at home at the time. And then that was Reebok CrossFit Duna. It was like over an hour away from our house. And then they were kind enough in the beginning to let us go a couple times a week. And then eventually we became regulars there.
And like, was there a point in time where you remember thinking like, oh, I'm actually, like, I'm pretty good at this?
Not in the beginning, for sure. And even now, I'm like, I don't think that way. I don't think so. It didn't come easy for me. I didn't have that like gymnastics background or track athlete background. Or we grew up in a very fortunate household that we were able to play a lot of different sports. but there was nothing like that was for my sister climbing that also I don't really think that really generates, really transfer to CrossFit that much. You
Mm.
can argue the grip strength, but it's like we're not, or I am not coming from a sport that would cater later on for CrossFit. So it was like, yeah, just learning everything.
Do you think have you had to like what height are you?
Height, I'm
Yeah.
190 centimeters.
So that's like 6'1"?
I
No,
6'2",
6'2". Have you had
6'1" or 6'2".
yeah, I don't know. I'm 183 and I think I'm 6 foot. So
Mm.
it can't be that far off that. Um do you think you've had to kind of fight against that a bit? Because that's obviously that's not the archetypal body like type of a elite level CrossFitter like.
I think it's a great question. When it comes to my size, I'm also like 103 kilos, like 225 pounds. So for a long time, I wasn't acknowledging my height and my weight as a strength, but as a tall athlete, I was trying to move and behave like a small athlete. And I think for many, many years, this was actually hindering my growth. And instead of taking advantage of my genetic gifts, I looked at it as something negative instead of something positive. And this is what I'm trying to put into perspective now and actually be proud and use what I have instead of looking at it as a disadvantage, sort of.
What do you think? Obviously, like rower and wall balls, but what else do you think are the advantages to being tall and on the heavier side?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of advantages when it comes to weightlifting. It's like one of those things. I used to watch like the Chinese weightlifters, or I used to watch like the 86 kilo categories. I have nothing in common with that guys. Nothing whatsoever. So even when it comes to CrossFit in the beginning, I used to watch, I think everyone else, a lot of video, and then me trying to compare my thrusters to Fraser's. There's obviously pointers that you can take away, but I literally moved the bar at twice the range of motion as he does. So it's like different limb lengths, different heights. I think once you immerse yourself into CrossFit and try to apply to your body and your height and your strengths, I think you can find certain things that you can do not better necessarily, but to your advantage as a taller athlete. So as a shorter athlete, like the shorter guys, they'll always be like, "Oh, I have to hammer the rower because I'm just not going to be good at rowing, or like bigger guys can beat me." But they always think that they have the burpee advantage or like a pull up advantage or something like that. And in my mind as well, as long as I can keep up on or let's just like stay close on like burpees and like pull ups and muscle ups to the shorter guys, I know I'm going to get them on the rower. I know I'm going to get them on weightlifting and wall balls. And there's a lot of things, running. I have a lung size of a horse. You know what I mean? So I think when it comes to conditioning as well, I can build a better base as well. So it's just instead of looking at it as a disadvantage, you want to look at it as how can I turn this into my strength?
It's kind of like that, like outlift the runners and outrun the lifters. It's kind of like out row and wall ball the short guys and out gymnastic and everything else the other big guys. Like that's basically what you want to do, is to lessen the gap where there should be a gap or where there's expected to be a gap, and increase the gap on your peers, we'll say, like body type wise, and then dominate all of the shorter athletes when it comes to like a big guy workout, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think it's also a dangerous mentality because you can look at your height and your build as an excuse, and then when you see a workout just like 30 ring muscle ups for time, you already know in your mind, or like your subconscious will tell you you're already lost. When that guy is doing 30 unbroken, you're like, you just see him in the warm-up area and you're like, this guy is going to crush this when I have no chance. And how can you go into a competition thinking that you don't have a chance?
And you mentioned there, like Fraser, that you don't, like that there's such a discrepancy, I suppose, between your body types and stuff that it's hard to. Do you watch, like, would you look at people like, say, Fikowski or big taller people and think like, okay, well, here is actually some transferable stuff? Like, would you pay attention to other stuff like that, or do you think you're in it long enough now that you just don't really bother looking at other people anymore?
100%. Like I was always going to look like Brent, Easy, Tommy Hockenbrook back in the day. Even Jason Khalifa, he's a shorter guy, but he got pretty long limbs. And when it comes to weightlifting, you want to look at the like the heavier category, like Lasha, for example. You know, his long torso, long limbs. You want to try to learn from those guys that are similar to you. And then you still pay attention to the shorter ones because you can find this or that there, what they're doing well. Why couldn't I do that one as well? But there are certain things that aren't applicable and there are certain things that are applicable.
Your English is incredible. Was English spoken at home or is that from school?
You're flattering me. My mom was pretty big on learning a second language. So I was sent, or it was like a student exchange program. I lived in the States for 6 months when I was in the ages of 13 and 14. When they were speaking no English whatsoever, it was just like, my name is Kristof. It's nice to meet you. And then my sister lived 1 year in Austria. And then I guess it was just always important for my mom to learn a second language. So
where did you live in America?
Washington, D.C., actually.
And is that like with family? Like, had you relations there or like a pen pal or what?
Yeah, something like that. Like my mom found them online and then, you know, exchanged.
Imagine you suggested that in 2022. Imagine someone's mother saying like, I found this person online and I'm going to send you to live with them. You just be like, no, like it just wouldn't happen. It's gas, isn't it? It's so funny.
And also one of the things I think that helped a lot for both of us is the first gym I started about CrossFit Duna. It was it's still owned by a Danish guy, Klaus, and that was an only English speaking CrossFit box in Budapest. So a lot of exchange students. And I guess.
So you were like, I've heard about Roman Krenikov. Like that he only speaks in CrossFit terminology. Like he understands like EMOM, AMRAP, like deadlift. He understands all that, and like conversation, just nothing. Like, So how did you wind up working with John then?
Great question. So when I came to the island first, I was with Gabby just for holiday to see a friend, a common friend. A mutual friend, sorry. I met with John here, and he's always like, on Saturday we do this workout. It's like MASH. It's like multiple workouts in a row. And it's always like whenever someone comes, it's like, you guys should definitely join the MASH. And then for a couple of weeks we could get out of it, and then eventually we joined the MASH, and then slowly we just started to interact, and then we started to form a friendship first and anything else. And then it naturally evolved into like a coach's athlete role. I think the way he sees, maybe this was the biggest catch for me, the way he sees movement, first of all, I think it's very unique compared to other coaches in the space. I'm not even comparing, but I never seen it before. So that was the first thing that really caught my attention. And we started to work slowly. He's also maybe I'm gonna butcher this one. He's an osteopath. He's a PT. So he understands the body very well. And then I think that was the first thing that really stood out. And then slowly we started to join in. And at a time I was on a different programming, Gav was on different programming, and then it just slowly, naturally evolved. Like he was never pushy. We never really asked, and then slowly turned into like the relationship that what it is today.
Like, when was this? When did you visit the island? What year was that?
It was before the 2019 games. That was the country champion year, no?
Yeah.
So it was,
And when did you start dating Gabby then? When was that? Was that before the regionals? She was at regionals 2018, wasn't she?
Yeah, so we're coming up 3 years now. So it was around that time as well, like a little before. Yeah. Okay.
That's cool. How did you guys meet? Through CrossFit?
Yeah, it's not a very romantic story, but I think many stories are starting like this today. It's just through Instagram. You know?
Oh, okay.
I
was hoping you like locked eyes over a chalk bucket or something. Or like both of you grabbed the same rope at the same time.
I was just like relentless with my DMs. you know, until she finally actually came over first to help us with like a team qualifier. So
Okay.
we just got to know each other a little bit, and then after that, yeah, just stayed relentless with the messages, and then paid off.
It was either going to end up in a relationship or being blocked and reported, one or the
Yeah,
other.
yeah. But she wasn't as famous at the time, so it was easier then.
You coach with the program as well, don't you?
Yeah.
And I'm always curious when there's an athlete who like has, you know, competitive aspirations themselves and obviously has a lot to focus on and a lot to do and a lot to think about. Like, is it hard to balance? We'll say even like if we just look at the list of things, okay, presumably you have like family obligations, like you need to, you know, ring your mom or, you know, talk to your dad or whatever. Then you've got like Gabby, and you obviously have to invest time in a relationship because it's a relationship, and because you want to, etc. Obviously, then you have like, you know, your training stuff you have to do for that. Like you don't want to fall behind in anything. You need to keep stuff up. Then you've also got like sponsors, and you've got obligations with sponsors, and you've got like you know, posts you need to make or places you need to be or go or whatever. And then you've got coaching as well, and you're obviously working with athletes yourself. Like, how do you compartmentalize all those different things? Like, do you have a different, like, say, do you do all your programming on a Sunday and then like not think about it again until the following Sunday? Like, how do you work that out?
Yeah, so I think it's I like to look at it as I have different caps, you know, and once one cap is on, let's say the athlete cap, I'm in the athlete mode, and then I put my phone on airplane mode, and then I just focus on training. And the same goes when it comes to online programming and then checking with my clients. There are certain times during the week and certain hours. I think the reason why the online coaching suits me very well is because I can do it once training is over or between sessions. And I'm very fortunate to be able, through the program, to work with athletes. They're also not just incredible, but also easy to work with. And I think I can balance my time well enough. And instead of looking at it as a distraction, I also look at how can I learn in other aspects of my life, if you will. You know, train or competing will not last forever. I want to make sure that I educate myself as well. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned throughout my career and continue learning and learn from John as well, that I can pass on and help other athletes to be better themselves.
You were one of the, well, you were the first Hype Machine athlete announced from Josie. You were one of the first like Hustle Made athletes, like sponsored athletes announced. That like, that has to feel good. Like it has to feel good that like, you know, Craig and Jazz put trust in you and like, you know, have an eye on you as someone that's, because obviously you're useful to them as well. Like they obviously see something in you, that they obviously see characteristics and stuff. And same with Josie, like they obviously see characteristics that they admire and that resonate with their, you know, their brand or what they're trying to do or whatever. But like, you're obviously valuable as well, because they wouldn't, even if they liked you, they're not going to work with you if they're like, yeah, he's probably not going to bring anything to the table. So like, it's obviously, it must be a nice like pat on the back of like, you're doing the right thing.
I appreciate that. You know, for me, in the sport, and it goes to all the brands I work with, I think the sport is so small, and it doesn't go against agents. And I'm obviously working with Josie, and he's my agent. I'm working with Hype Machine, but I think you cannot put the word I'm looking for. I think friendship comes first, always. That's what I'm trying to say. That if you have a strong connection with the brand and the people behind it, most importantly, I think they will maybe see value in you. But I always value the personal connection before looking at, you know, how much money I can get out of this brand, or even sometimes above the products. Obviously, all the brands that I surround myself with, I do believe, and I use the product daily or as often as I can and want to. But it was always the personal relationships with the brands that was number one for me.
Yeah, it's a cool t-shirt. I like that actually. I like the little sleeve logo. It's cool. So one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, actually, so Laura's documentary with Barnaby came out there with the Fit Aid thing, came out like maybe a month ago. And what, like, was that weird? Was it weird seeing your house like on film?
Yeah,
Like that must be kind of jarring, is it?
yeah. I think it was incredible to see Laura. How vulnerability is maybe not the right word, but I found it, at least maybe it's just me, very intimate. The whole
Oh no,
thing.
that was
Had a,
I've seen a lot of stuff with her and I've never seen her like that. Like that was,
yeah,
yeah, he really tapped into something, I think.
I think so. Barnaby is a great guy, and obviously
Mm.
he's a magician behind the camera. But it was very intimate to see all that. And my dad is like as well. It's like I love him, but he's like this square Hungarian guy, a little bit,
Is that
rarely
him?
shows
Is that him that's
emotion.
at the track with the
Yeah,
stopwatch? And is he
yeah.
like, so is he a coach? Does he do like athletics or something as well? Because like
Yeah.
he's like, either he put on a really good show or he knows what he's talking about holding the stopwatch.
No, no, no. So both my parents are PE teachers, and they have a long history in track and field as well.
Yeah.
My dad was on the national team for a couple of years,
Oh, that's cool.
running. Yeah, so he knows what he's talking about for sure. Yeah,
That's cool. Um, so obviously, like, you know, Laura and Gabby are both like a big part of your life, and they're both doing really well, and they've both had a big 2021 and a big off season as well. And I was curious, like, so I wanted to talk to you for a while because, and I said this when I was talking to Gabby, that you appear to be someone who's very like intelligent and like I know you've mentioned there that you have aspirations to do coaching, and like it's the type, it seemed on the face of it anyway, it seems like the type of coaching where, like, similar to John, I suppose, where like you actually give a shit and you're actually interested in like developing coaching practices rather than just being like, yeah, yeah, whatever, it's Monday, just do back squats. Like you actually care about, the what am I looking for? Like the kind of education side of coaching, that it's not that you want to like empower people that are working with you rather than just like, I'll just tell you what to do and you just do it. Like, what's the problem? Do you know, like that you actually have kind of like a vision approach to it or whatever. So you're obviously, off the back of that, I worked out like, okay, well, he's obviously considered, and he's obviously like, you've said a few things already in the interview where you seem like in touch with your emotions and you seem in touch with your own growth. And like, you know, I feel like things probably don't pass you by unnoticed, like that you take a lot in. So I was curious then, when your sister and your partner or girlfriend or spouse, whatever,
yeah.
are like currently two of the most successful female CrossFit athletes out there, is that like, obviously you're thrilled for them and you're happy for them and everything else, but is that something that you ever have to wrestle with? Because I
Mhm.
suppose the two of them cast such a big shadow that it can be hard to not be seen as Laura's brother or Gabby's boyfriend. Like, is that ever something that you've had to think about?
There are many great things that you touched on there. So first and foremost, I'm not a coach for any of those girls, right? I am there and I support them. And then obviously it's a very, very tricky scenario when they're at the same comp.
Mm.
And funny enough, both Laura and Gabby has very similar strengths as well. So it's like when there's a clean and jerk one rep max, they're gonna be like a couple kilos next to each other, like similar workouts as well. Um, I would like to believe that I'm not just saying this, but it is true that if my sister, if with Gabby would change their career tomorrow, I would support them the same way and regardless. My brother plays the guitar. He's a fantastic jazz guitar player. And then whenever he has a show, I try to go when I'm home as well and then support him the same way. So I think it just comes down to like how important family is in your life. And for me, family is the most important thing in my life. And it was never I never felt like they were casting a shadow over me. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, I love my sister. I love Gabby. Like, the better they do, the happier they are at the end of the day, the happier I am. And, uh, it never mattered to me where they finish really on the podium. It's not the podium, but I want to see them succeed in all aspects of life. You know, we're just like, CrossFit is the one that is on display, but you know, I have very little financial knowledge. But if I can help them there, I will help them there. Or if there's with my sister, there's a relationship thing, and we talk about it, and I can help. I try to apply the same just helping mentality, I guess, or have a conversation about it. But no, you know, like it's funny because it's sort of like a running joke around here as well. Like, who's this guy? Well, he's Loro's brother, or he's like Gabby's boyfriend. And I have no problem with that. You know what I mean? Like, there are times when I am there to support them, and there are times when I am there for myself, and I'm trying to carve my way through. But the two are not whatsoever, you know, conflicting or against one another.
I guess we just have to, I mean, they're both incredible athletes, so I assume it won't happen, but we just have to hope that in Lowlands, they're not both in like 5th and 6th going into the final event or something. Because like,
I don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be a rough, you just be like, I'm just going to go outside for this last event. Let me know what happens.
Yeah. I try not to watch, you know, I try to stay in the warm-up area, and if there's like a TV screen or something, I'll watch it there. But I feel like I'm too emotionally invested in seeing them happy that it's hard to see that. And I never want to find myself in a scenario when I root for one more than the other one. So when it's like go time, I just take a step back and let them figure it out.
So is this the best case scenario for you then, you being in London and them being in Lowlands, and like that you're able to, like, I suppose, focus on them and then focus on yourself separately? Or would it be better if you were all at the same event and you didn't even have to worry about like, oh God, I hope they do okay, because you could just focus on yourself?
Yeah, so we're actually going to try something new. This is going to be the first event since I've been together with Gav that I won't be there in person. Similar for Laura, I've been at every games, every like major comp, so I won't be there this time. I think it's the best at the end of the day.
Is that just because of the time it'll take and how you'd lose a bit of training and that kind of stuff, is it?
Yeah. So I think for Gabby, it is important as her personal growth as an athlete to be there with her coach and her like coaching stuff, and I'll be, you know, just like a phone call away or something. And this year I am trying to prioritize myself when it comes to CrossFit, so I'm going to continue to do that this season, and I want to focus on strength and depth.
Yeah, that's fair. I was looking at the field. I was actually interviewing PD Savage this morning, who he's going to strength and depth as well, and he was saying that kind of similar to what you were saying. Like, it was actually his coach said to him he was thinking of going like all in for the year and like, you know, taking time off work and just training. And his coach worked up a spreadsheet of why he shouldn't do that. So he was like, basically, the long and short of it the long and short of it is, he said that you're too old, you're too tall, and you're too heavy, was basically what, like, the data that he had. So he was like, you're heavier than X% of your field, you're taller than X% of your field, and you're older than X% of your field. So he's like, going all in, he's like, you know, like, is it going to be worth your while going all in? Like, he was questioning he was kind of playing devil's advocate. He was just giving him, you know, like, food for thought.
He should fire that guy.
No, well, he was saying that it was, he was like, it's exactly what I needed, because it made me actually stop and think. And then he was like, as soon as I told him, no, this is what I want, he was like, he couldn't have been more supportive. Like, you know, he was just playing devil's advocate, being like, I think his point was, I don't want to get to October and you turn around and be like, fuck, this is a mistake, I quit. Do you know, like, he was like, you need to make sure that if you're making this decision, you're aware of all of the downsides that you face, instead of just being like, everything is rosy and it's brilliant. But I knew that he was like trying to lean out, and he's similar to you. He's tall, like, he's really tall. He's built like a brick shithouse. He's like over 100 kilos as well. and he's been trying to lean out. But then obviously you have concerns over, like you're saying, you have those workouts that are a strength, and you're like, well, if I lean out too much, will that not be a strength anymore? Like, will I start to level, like, will I start to bring that down a little bit? And is it worth the payoff of bringing other things up?
I think that's not a good approach.
But he was saying that, we'll come back to that, but he was saying that he's on the heavier side, on the taller side. And I knew that it was going to come up in conversation. So I looked up the field in strength and depth. You are all fucking massive. So there's like, you're big, like in every sense. That made it sound like I was talking about your penis. I mean, like height and weight. Like Zach George is there, another like huge guy. PD is there, big guy. Heiner Kapelainen, monster. Andre Hude, another big guy. Like, obviously, I assume you don't look at the leaderboard and say, I can beat this guy. I can beat, like, I assume you don't do that. I assume you don't look at it in that kind of way. But like, does it give you any kind of maybe concern, I suppose is the wrong word, but something along those lines of, are my strengths going to be strong enough to be stronger than the other people who are the same, who would have historically have the same strengths that I would consider to be my strengths?
I think it's a fantastic question. I don't look at the other guys. I don't just have to beat those 5 guys that you mentioned. There's 25 other guys on the roster. And if I just go into there's a workout, and then let's say something heavy, whatever. If I just look at like beating Andre, and Andre's a fantastic guy. It's not against Andre, but just for an example's sake. If I just look at beating Andre, and I do beat him, but I didn't beat 20 other guys, it's a very bad, or in my mind, it's a wrong approach to competition. Like, I'm not looking at strength in depth. Who do I have to beat? I look at how can I maximize my own potential to do the best I can, regardless of the field, regardless of the guys that are there. Are they on the bigger and heavier side? Some of them, yes. But I try not to compare.
Yeah. It's like when you said I don't look, I was like, oh fuck, am I after telling him everyone that's there? And he was trying not to think about it, because I had the same.
No, it's fine.
When I interviewed Fikowski, I was about to ask him, like, I think his first open workout, he finished like 3,000 or something in the first one, like he bombed it. And I was about to ask him about it, and he goes, I still haven't looked at the open leaderboard. I don't even know where I finished. And I was like, I could pull apart his whole season if I tell him that he finished 3,000 in the first. Like, if he was just like, wait, what? I thought I did pretty good in that one. So I like, would strength and depth have been your preference, or would you have been satisfied once you were kind of not at the same event as Gabby and Laura, or did you care? Like, was it just, I don't really care, wherever I go?
At the end, it is what it is, and I'm very happy with strength in that. I did compete there in 2019. I had a great time. Hustle is going to be there. Fit Aid is going to be there. A lot of my sponsors are going to be there. Great people that I know are going to be there. So I'm just stoked to be. You are going to be there. I think it's going to be a great event. It's going to be fun. Same with Lowlands. It's going to be a good event. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm like, I think like you say about the leaderboard, no matter what was going to happen, because like if you look at the Lowlands one, it's like the names aren't any smaller. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not as if there's people you've never heard of at the other event where you're like, oh, if I was at that one, I would have done great. Like, it just is what it is, I suppose. You can't really look at that kind of way. I was curious as well. Obviously, like, we're not talking about you retiring or anything, but like, is coaching, you mentioned there that you're not going to be an athlete forever. Is coaching, is that the hat you'll be putting on when you take off your athlete hat, do you think?
Yeah, unless Bitcoin goes as 10x. Yeah.
You never know.
Should have been more of a paying attention computer class in high school more, but I do love coaching.
What do you like about it?
I think so. Most important, I like the in-person coaching that I do very little nowadays. It's just I think you can it's impossible to compare a CrossFit class to any other experiences in your life. You know, it's such a rewarding thing to coach a class, and it is fantastic to see the members come back, pay attention, get better. You can impact so many more lives, so much deeper than through social media. I believe that that's where the real change lies, and I think it's very. I think in today's CrossFit, it would be very important, in my opinion, to separate the competitive sides from the recreational sides a little bit. Obviously, there are bridges that has to be kept, but I think the affiliate side of things, and the recreational side of things of CrossFit is incredible. It's incredible, and it's one of the most rewarding experiences a person can have if you're a coach within CrossFit, to coach a class and impact those members, your members' lives throughout classes.
It sounds like you might open a box someday. Would that be something that's in the plans, do you think?
Maybe. We'll see.
Maybe. God, when you all retire, you'd have a pretty good coaching staff. If you could convince like Laura and Gabby as well, that would be like, you'd have a lot of people coming to join that gym. Is it difficult with obviously you live on the island and you live there, like a large part of living there is because it's a great training environment and there's a great group of athletes there, and there's, you know, great facilities and it's nice weather, you know, it's just ideal training scenario basically. And then you coach online and you have clients and you have people that you have to work with, and then your sister's in the sport and your girlfriend's in the sport. Like, do you struggle to separate yourself from the sport, like, or from like competing? Like, is it ever hard to just go home and like watch TV and not be like turning around to Gabby and saying like, you know, I think tomorrow I might do the 21 unbroken, and then, you know, like that kind of way? Is it ever hard to just kind of stop thinking about it?
That's a good question. Are you familiar with Mr. Beast on YouTube?
No, I know the kids that I teach talk about it, but I don't know who he is.
You should check his channel out, and you should check the interview out that he did with Joe Rogan. And then what I'm trying to bring here is that I think CrossFit, in the best way I would like to believe possible, it is my life, you know, in all aspects. I live in the bubble. I feel like not to a certain degree, I am hyper obsessed with CrossFit. You know, I'm a fan of the sport. I do the sport. I have people around me within the sport, and it doesn't feel draining at all because I do enjoy it. You know, I love talking about it. I like the coach's side, the athlete side, so all of it, you know, a little bit of gossip in there or something like that. So when we come home, we try to leave the athlete life outside of our home, but we do talk about CrossFit sometimes. And, you know, it would be probably weird to meet someone who is not from the CrossFit bubble or doesn't know anything about CrossFit, because this is what I know and this is what I'm interested about, and not many things from the outside world pierce through the bubble. So we're not going to talk about how we going to break up tomorrow's workout with Gabby at home, but, you know, then it's time for me to check in with my online clients or just educate myself as a person. And we try maybe not to watch too many YouTube CrossFit videos at home, but I never felt it distracting. You know, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I love to do. So I try to embrace it, and then it's just part of who I am, I guess, at this moment.
What would a successful season look like for you then, if you've said that you're prioritizing yourself in CrossFit as things stand? If you like, when, say, if it's like whatever September, what would need to happen in the next few months for you to say like, yeah, 2022 went as well as I could have hoped?
Nothing would need to happen. The goal is the goal, and I'm excited about stepping into the gym every single day. I don't look at something as the end result. You know, I think if you're actually heard this today, it's like a man who likes to walk. It was something like a man who likes to walk versus a man who looks forward to the destination will be able to enjoy the journey and walk further than the other one. And I think I actually listened to the Fikowski podcast with you, and he said that he will know when he's a journeyman that he's not going to continue as a competitive athlete. But I think in a different kind of context, I am a journeyman in that sense that I enjoy my everyday life, and I look forward to grow and be better both as an athlete, as a person, as a coach. But to answer that question, it's a long answer already. There is an end goal that will satisfy me or unsatisfy me.
That's a good answer. Okay. Well, we'll finish with a quick fire. So there's nothing abhorrent in it, I don't think. So snatch or clean?
Clean.
Ski or row?
Row.
Coach or compete?
Both.
Oh, I don't think that's allowed. Dumbbell or barbell?
Barbell.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time out. It's been great getting to know you. I kind of knew I was going to enjoy it. I try not to go into interviews with expectations, because I either end up disappointed or like pissed off at how I did something or said something. But no, I knew I was going to enjoy it. I knew that I'd like your philosophies on things, I think, on coaching and competing and stuff. And I think there's a lot of stuff for people to take from that. I think I really look forward to seeing you in London and seeing how you get on. And I'm delighted for you that like just so many ducks seem to be coming into a row for you with sponsors and working with Josie, and you know, Gabby's doing really well, Laura's doing really well, the program's doing really well. So it's great that everything's going so well. And I'm excited to see what you can do in competition and beyond it, wherever it takes you. So thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to seeing the rest of your season.
I really appreciate your time and having me on as well. It's been really a pleasure. Hopefully I didn't say anything stupid. And I hope to get to meet you in person as well in London. So just because I'll be in the zone, please don't walk away or something. Just
No, yeah. I'll stand at the end of your lane in every workout and
perfect.
immediately beckon you over when you're finished, just to really piss you off.
Lock eyes in the middle of like 21 thrusters or something.
Yeah, it can be the meet cute that you didn't have with Gabby. We'll both reach for the same piece of chalk.